Hey everybody, I just thought I'd share a news story that came out, and I like doing it if it has to do with topics I have covered. And I have covered the events of 12,800 years ago and 11,600 years ago pretty extensively, especially through Randall Carlson's work. I think it's the most important thing I've learned on YouTube in the past few years. And Randall Carlson deserves a lot of credit, 30 years of research, and it has really provided an answer to questions that are just hazy mysteries to us, the end of the Ice Age, the extension of the megafauna, and the theory that early hunters just overhunted the woolly mammoths and the megafauna to extinction is the single stupidest theory maybe that we have been taught growing up. And the events that happened 12,800 years ago and 11,600 years ago, I think we were obviously hit by something through current research and all that we know and myth and legend. And I have put out a video. I know some people say, well, there might be other things, and I have put out one video. I did it about 3 or 4 years ago on the Vela supernova that seemed to maybe have reached Earth at this time, but all the evidence seems to indicate we were hit by something. And this article from Science Alert, excuse me, I'm just going to read. It says, a recent ice age was triggered by a firestorm bigger than the one that killed the dinosaurs. And I just don't think we have any idea what a massive impact, the devastation that will cause. It says, in a hugely detailed and comprehensive new study, researchers have painted a picture of how around a tenth of the Earth's surface suddenly became covered in roaring fires at a point some 12,800 years ago. The firestorms rivaled the ones that wiped out the dinosaurs, and it was caused by fragments of a comet that would have measured around 100 kilometers or 62 miles across. As dust clouds smothered the Earth, it kicked off a mini ice age that kept the planet cool for another 1,000 years, just as it was emerging from 100,000 years of being covered in glaciers. Once the fires burned off, life could start again, according to the international team of scientists. The hypothesis is that a large comet fragmented and chunks impacted the Earth, causing this disaster, says one of the team, Adrian Mellett from the University of Kansas. A number of different chemical signatures, carbon dioxide, nitrate, ammonia, and others, all seem to indicate that an astonishing 10% of the Earth's land surface, or about 10 million square kilometers, or 3.86 million square miles, was consumed by fires. To peer back into the burning fires and shock waves of this major event, a large number of geochemical and isotopic markers were measured from more than 170 sites across the world, involving a team of 24 scientists. One of the pieces of analysis carried out was on the patterns in pollen levels, which suggested pine forests were suddenly burned off to be replaced by poplar trees, a species specializing in covering barren ground, as you might get when your planet has been hit by a series of massive fireballs. In fact, parts of the comet that disintegrated in space are likely still floating around in parts of our solar system 13,000 years later. High concentrations of platinum often found in asteroids and comets, and high levels of dust were also noted in the samples analyzed by the researchers. Turn off your phone when you make videos, you idiot. Alongside increased concentrations of combustion aerosols you would expect to see in a lot of biomass was burning, ammonium, nitrate, and others. Plants died off, food sources would have been scarce, and the previously retreating glaciers began to advance again, says the researchers. Human culture would have had to adapt to the harsher conditions, with populations declining as a result. And there is myth and legend coming from early history that just talk about hellish, brutal, long winters. And I think human population might have had to gone underground when you got places like Derinkuyu in Turkey, a massive city that would have supported maybe as many as 20,000 people. I just have to think that maybe that is where that comes from, that time period. But it says, computations suggest that the impact would have depleted the ozone layer, causing increases in skin cancer and other negative health effects, says Malott. The team thinks such a widespread impact of comet fragments and the ensuing firestorms is responsible for that extra bit of cooling known as the Younger Dryas period. This relatively brief blip in the planet's temperature has sometimes been put down to changing ocean currents. However, this comet hit isn't a completely new idea, even though this latest research goes into great deal of depth to try to find evidence for it. Scientists have been debating whether comet impact kicked off the Younger Dryas event for several years now. Not everyone agrees that the data points to a comet strike, but the new study offers up more support for the hypothesis, as do the ancient carvings found in Turkey last year, and actually they were found well before that, at Gobekli Tepe, carvings which depict a devastating impact from an interstellar object. The impact hypothesis is still a hypothesis, but this study provides a massive amount of evidence, which we argue can only be all explained by a major cosmic impact. The research has been published here and here in the Journal of Geology, and the carvings in Turkey that are spoken of, well, of course, those are on Gobekli Tepe. And I made this video actually 3 days before the scientific report came out that seemed to suggest that this pillar indicates a comet strike, and we have a serpent here pointing downward. And scientists have said that this indicates a comet strike, and this would have been really on these people's minds if it was so devastating. And they certainly tried to put a little message in for the future. This is what happened. And the snake and the serpent is often depicted as a comet. And here you see it at Gobekli Tepe, and I made this video a couple weeks ago. A rock carved as a human head with the serpent on the back of the mind. And I just said kind of flippantly, maybe this is because this comet impact was on the back of these people's mind all along. It was that devastating. And the more I think about that, I think I'm right. I think that's what they are depicting. This was a devastating thing, the most devastating probably cataclysm in the last few million years on Earth, based on the amount of animals that went extinct. But this story sure seems to validate Randall Carlson's research. But a lot more evidence is out there. Ancient history is a pretty fascinating thing. The Earth went through some really hellish times around 12,000 years ago. Hope you thought this was interesting, and you all have a very nice day.